On today's video, I'm going to share with you why the United States is heading into a debt apocalypse. Hi folks, I'm best-selling author David McKnight. Today we're going to break down all the financial components that are building up to what amounts to a debt apocalypse for the United States in the not-so-distant future. For starters, let's begin with what former Comptroller General of the federal government, David Walker, says is really the canary in the coal mine when it comes to our country's fiscal future. That's the debt-to-GDP ratio. Currently, we're at about 108%, which is about what it was in the immediate wake of World War II. However, moving forward, that number rises precipitously such that by the time we reach 2052, it will have exploded to 185%. Why is this the case? It's because as a country, we can't seem to find a way to live within our means. And that problem only exacerbates as time wears on. By 2052, federal spending will equal 30% of GDP, while actual revenue based on current tax rates will remain at about 18%. So when former Comptroller General of the federal government, David Walker, says that tax rates have to double over time to keep our country solvent, this is precisely what he's referring to. Okay, let's take a look at the cost of servicing our country's burgeoning national debt. This statistic is especially poignant given the fact that the Fed has begun to raise interest rates in a historic way. On June 15th, they raised the federal rate 0.75 of a point, the largest such increase since 1994. And most economists, according to a recent Reuters poll, see the Fed raising interest rates by another 0.75 of a point in July. Given the likely trajectory of interest rates over time, the cost of servicing the national debt will only go higher. Currently, the cost of servicing the debt is at about 1.5% of our nation's GDP. By 2052, that number is projected to reach 7.2% of GDP and will begin to crowd out all other spending. When you look at the cost of those interest payments relative to our country's average expenditure on research and development, infrastructure, and education, it puts it all into perspective. By the time we reach 2052, we'll be paying 3 times the amount of interest than we do on those 3 categories combined. Now, let's take a look at non-discretionary spending. Remember, this is the spending over which we have absolutely no control, that we're either required to pay by law in the case of Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, or by the U.S. Constitution in the case of interest on the national debt. As we race towards 2052, non-discretionary spending tends to level off. However, the costs of Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid and interest on the national debt begin to shoot through the roof. So when you hear your congressman decrying pork barrel spending, this is really political posturing. That's all discretionary spending, and it's not really part of the problem. The real problem is the stuff over which we have no control, and that's the stuff that will eventually either bankrupt us or force your taxes to double. Okay, time for the POZ question of the day. What do you think is the single greatest threat facing our nation? Go ahead and put your answers in the comments section below. What's driving all this debt? It's the aging of America. Between 2011 and 2029, the number of baby boomers that turn 65 start to explode such that by 2030, we will have an astounding 70 million Americans who will be age 65 or older and qualify for Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Not only is the size of the 65 plus age demographic growing larger, but they're living longer. By the time we reach 2025, the cost of healthcare will rise to 20% of the entire economy. Most of this comes from Medicare and is a huge albatross around the neck of the U.S. taxpayer. Then there's Social Security. Currently, 2.8 Americans contribute to Social Security for every 1 person that takes money out. But by the time 2042 rolls around, that number drops to 2.2. So we are marching into a future where a much larger number of Americans will be relying on so-called entitlement programs, and a much smaller number of Americans will be contributing to the funding of these programs. Take a second to think of what that is likely to do to your personal tax rate. To fully fund Social Security between now and 2035, we'd have to have $2.9 trillion sitting in a bank account today, earning Treasury rates. How much do you think we actually have? Zippo. And by the time 2035 does roll around, the Social Security Trust Fund will be depleted. That means that Social Security will have to be funded purely off of incoming revenue. What does that mean? It means you'll either see your Social Security cut, your taxes go up, or some combination of the two. So, what does all this mean for individual families who will be forced to finance the cost of all these unfunded obligations? It means that the percentage of your paycheck that you'll be able to take home will begin to drop. By 2028, the average four-person family will lose $4,000. By 2038, they'll lose $8,000. And by 2048, they'll lose $16,000. And what does this mean for the person who plans on financing their retirement through distributions from IRAs or 401ks? It means you'll be taking much less money home after tax. All of this, of course, highlights the importance of taking advantage of tax rates while they're historically low. Now is the time to begin shifting your highly taxable tax-deferred retirement accounts to tax-free. Take advantage of taxes while they're on sale so that by the time tax rates do double over time, you've done all the heavy lifting and you can take those assets out tax-free. If you need some help protecting your hard-earned retirement savings from the looming debt apocalypse facing our country, head on over to davidmcknight.com and opt in for a complimentary strategy session. I'm happy to give you a hand. Don't forget to click like, subscribe, and the bell so you never miss a video. And feel free to make comments or ask questions in the comments section below. This is David McKnight. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.